Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss about the various issues that are available with multi-threading models. Now let's look into the various threading issues. There are basically five threading issues that has to be discussed. The first one is the semantics of the fork and exec system call. The second one is signal handling. The third one is thread cancellation. And the fourth one is the thread local storage. And finally, it is the scheduler activation. Let's go one by one. Now, the first threading issue is semantics of fork and exec system call. Now, when we talk about fork system call, all of us know that the fork system call is used for creating another thread. So, what is the issue that lies with the fork system call? What is the threading issue that lies with the fork system call? That is, the issue that is available with the fork system call is, does fork duplicate only the calling thread, or does it duplicate all the threads that belong to the process? This is the major threading issue that is available with the fork system call. Similarly, we know that exec system call is used for executing a thread, and the issue that is available with exec system call is, should it replace the running process alone, running thread alone, or should it replace the running process including all the threads? So these are the issues that are available with the fork and exec system call. Now coming to the second issue, which is signal handling. What is meant by a signal? All of us know that a signal is nothing but it is like an interruption. It is an event which is being generated, and hence when we say signal, signal is nothing but it is a notification sent to a process to indicate that a particular event has occurred. So what will a signal handler do? A signal handler is responsible for handling the particular signal, which means it has to handle the whatever event has taken place. So a signal handler is used to process signals. Signal is actually generated by a particular event, and it will be, when it is generated by a particular event, it has to be notified to the process. Therefore, the signal will be delivered to a process, and it is the job of the process to handle the signal. The signals can be handled in two different ways. One is with a default handler. The other one is with a user-defined handler. All signals come with a with a default handler. So what happens is, whenever a particular signal is generated, immediately the corresponding default handler will be invoked, and the code will be executed such that the signal will be handled. If in case the default handler has to be replaced by the user-defined handler, then code has to be written in such a way that the user-defined signal handler will override the default handler. So these are the issues. These are the issues that we are going to discuss with respect to signal handling. The questions to be answered are: where should a signal be delivered for multi-threaded processes? So when we have different or many threads of control, we need to know where the signal has to be delivered to, whether the signal has to be delivered to the thread to which the signal applies, or should it be delivered to every thread in that particular process, or should it be delivered to certain threads in a process, or should there be a specific thread that is responsible for receiving all the signals for a particular process? So these are the questions that will have to be answered in order to solve this threading issue of signal handling. The third issue is thread cancellation. What is meant by thread cancellation? Before that, we will see what is meant by a target thread. A target thread is nothing but it is the thread that has to be cancelled. Now, what is meant by thread cancellation? Terminating a thread before the thread has completed is called as thread cancellation. So, if you are not going to do any kind of a normal termination with the thread, instead you end up in an abnormal termination of the thread, then you call that as thread cancellation. And we have two different types of thread cancellations: asynchronous cancellation and deferred cancellation. So the most preferred one is the deferred cancellation, because deferred cancellation is the default thread cancellation method which is applied. What is asynchronous cancellation is, whenever your cancellation is of asynchronous nature, then immediately the target thread will be terminated without any kind of a notification. Whereas in deferred cancellation, the target thread is will be allowed to periodically check if it should be cancelled, and then only it will get cancelled. So that is the approach, two different approaches of thread cancellation. Now we will see the default mode in which thread cancellation occurs. Now by default, the thread cancellation mode will be turned off. So it's always turned off by default. If it has to be enabled, it has to be turned on. And the default cancellation which is existing is the deferred cancellation, and it will be in the enable state. If thread cancellation is disabled, cancellation will remain pending until the thread enables it. So this is about the threading issue, thread cancellation. Now we move on to thread local storage. What is meant by thread local storage? Allowing a thread to have its own copy of data is called as thread local storage. And why should we allow a thread to have its own copy of data? The advantage is when you do not have control over the thread creation process, then you will go in for thread local storage. That is, when we are going to use the thread pool for while creating new threads, then we will use thread local storage, which will allow every thread to have its own copy of data. And finally, the last issue is scheduler activation. Now, in the scheduler activation, what is done is, we have already discussed about the two-level model, which consists of or comprises of the many-to-many model and the one-to-one model. There you get the two-level models. Two-level models will require communication to maintain the enough number of kernel threads allocated to the application. So what happens is, typically an intermediate lightweight process, that is LWP, intermediate lightweight process, will be introduced between the kernel thread and the user thread. And the issue that lie with this kind of assignment is, that is, each lightweight process, it has to be attached to the kernel, and what is the number of LWPs that can be created. So these are the threading issues with respect to scheduler activation. So in this video, we have seen the 5 different threading issues. Let me repeat the 5 different threading issues. They are the semantics of fork and ELCC system call, signal handling, thread cancellation, and then thread local storage, finally the scheduler activations. So with this, we come to the end of this video. Thank you.